Yeah, very good. Talent, tarot that
That could take a while.
Right, so not there's no timing issue, right? So maybe we should have back to this.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our final speaker series event of our program year, and we're happy to have Pamela Wu here, Cupertino City Manager. And before I turn it over to her, we've had a wonderful season. I'm thankful for the volunteers who helped put these events together, and for you all for coming and being part of these conversations. I thought it would be very wonderful to have a city manager here, because as we're learning more about our communities, through our listening campaigns and trying to engage, who better to talk to than the folks who help run? So welcome, Pam.
Thank you. Thank you, and good evening. My name is Pamela Wu. I think I've met some of you other time or throughout, and perhaps I've met you at other events. I am known for straying from my script and just do whatever I want. So very pleased and very honored to be here. I'm also a Christian myself, reborn Christian, so it's almost like coming home. I have actually grown up near this church. I have a lot of friends who live in a townhome nearby. I went to Cupertino High School. My kids played here. I'm as local as you get. I graduated from Lynbrook High School, went to Cal, came back. My kids graduated from Fremont High School, both of them. My daughter's now working in Maryland as a city planner. She doesn't want to say that she's following mom's footsteps, but you understand that. And my son's in LA completing his second year in college. I'm an empty nester, which had forced me to do the job that I'm doing right now. I am almost entering into my second year as a city manager for Cupertino. This is home for me. I mean, I grew up here. I've seen an empty lot turning into Main Street. I've seen a popular mall turn into an empty lot. So you name it. So I've seen the ups and downs. So I thought today we could turn it into some sort of interactive conversation. I do have a slide deck put together by my staff, not me. I have to give them all the credits. Feel free to raise your hand, pause, and raise questions and have a dialogue. If there are things I'm seeing you like racing over, I'll just quickly go to the next slide. But if there's things that you want to know, just hey, wait. So I don't intend to be, I taught Sunday school for about 8 years when my kids were small. I don't intend this to be another Sunday school lesson. So feel free to, just walk around, get up and whatnot. I did leave a stack of my cards. Feel free to take them if you wish to get in touch with me. I will warn you, and Ben probably can attest to it, I am not that easy to find. I do return my emails, but it's just given my job. I would love to have a conversation with all of you, but if you have patience, it will happen. All right, so without further ado, first slide. So not really an agenda, but kind of outline of what I thought it would be interest to you. Talk a little bit about the city, who the city councils are. I'm sure you know the members, and who are the city staff. What is Cupertino, and what are City Council's priority for the past year or two? There has been some dynamic change, political shift, if you will. So what are those? And then let's focus on economic development. That is a big word. What does that mean? So basically, in my mind, I'm a planner, by the way, so I do land use, I do planning, I do development. Economic development means that I want to see business in town. Simply put, I don't want to see business leaving me. I want to see big or small business staying and coming to town. So we'll also talk about some of the accomplishments that council has put together, and there's a long list of those. We'll talk about innovation meets culture. It's hard not to talk about innovation, given that we have a tech giant in town that everywhere you go, you see them and you have one in your hand. And then we'll talk about how you can stay engaged and open up the rest of for your Q&A. So these are your 5 council members. As of last December, Mayor Sheila Mohan took on the mayorship. Prior to that, it was Mayor Han Wei. For those of you who know that we have 5 council members in Cupertino, and we're on a rotating mayorship so that there will be a nomination at the end of each December to nominate the new mayor and the new vice mayor. We don't have elected mayors, unlike Sunnyvale or Santa Clara or San Jose, where the residents elect their own mayors. We have a rotational mayor. Council members have 4 years as the first term, and they can decide to go ahead and get elected for the second term. Once they complete a total of 8 years, they're termed out. So every 2 years, and you'll see this is the election year, you'll see some council members and other candidates running for election. So interesting enough, and I don't know if you know this, City Council only has 2 employees. That's me, myself, and the city attorney. We're the only 2 appointees by City Council. Everyone else that you meet on the street or you meet in City Hall, they report to me. Under me, there is the assistant city manager, deputy city manager, and we'll go through the structure. Kind of looks like this. City council under me, city attorney, and city manager, and then we have essentially about 6 departments that does the day-to-day operation for the city. You talk about public works, fixing your streets, your medians, parks and recreation. So this is Memorial Park, your summer camp, the awesome cherry blossom that happened last weekend. Thousands and thousands of people came. Community development, this is where planning, building, code enforcement, your 311, when you see something that you don't like, call 311, you can report a claim. And then our housing division. We also have an administrative services that's more internal. So that's the budgeting, financing, contracting, purchasing, HR, and you name it. We also have IT. So we're very unique. We're very fortunate to have an IT department. So IT, again, is more internal serving. So they serve all of the employees by providing the cutting edge. Again, we pride us on being the innovative city. So we do a lot of internal apps, applications, and just want to make everyone's job more efficient. And also that applies to the residents. Not every city has a 311 app, but we do. Lastly, we also have a city manager's office, and I call it the gopher. Go for this and go for that. So in the city manager's office, we actually have several divisions: economic development, communication, emergency services. Those of you who are residents know that we don't have a police department and we don't have a fire station. We rely on the sheriffs to provide our public safety, and we are also covered by the fire district. But in terms of emergency, I also have an emergency service manager who's a liaison to coordinate between county sheriff and county fire and the city. We do have a contract with the sheriff's office. We also have just kind of the communication, economic development, and emergency. I think there's something I'm forgetting, but that's okay. I'm going to get back to that. So I know I talk very fast and talked a lot, so let me know if I'm doing too fast, or you have questions, feel free to raise your hand. Cupertino. So the latest census tell us our population is kind of on a slight decline. We're roughly about 61,000 people. 61,000 people as of the last residence census. We have excellent schools. I mean, we pride ourselves on our elementary school, middle school, high school. We also have 2 outstanding community colleges, Foothill and Indiana College. About 70% of our populations are highly educated. By saying that, we either have a bachelor degree, a master, PhD, and I can go on. We are one of the top academic-driven, highly educated population, which leads to the reason why we also have an incredible high median income in this city. Our average income is roughly $200,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Again, we're home to one of the tech giant, Apple company. They have at least 3 main campuses in the city: Apple Park, Infinity Loop, and also what was it, the thing that where they started over by Bug Road. They also have other satellite offices here and there. And the latest news that I learned is, if you guys remember the Seagate building by City Hall over on Stevens Creek behind Armadillo Willie's back in the times, Apple just bought that building. So they'll be moving more employees into that building. So to say that we're not at Appletown, I don't know. So I talked about schools. We have excellent schools. One thing that I'm sure you know is that even though we're very close to school districts, they're not part of the city operation. So they have their own boards and they have their own board trustees. CUSD, Cupertino Union School District, have their own board trustees to run the elementary schools and middle school. Same with the high schools. Reason being is that we want to keep that separation so that they have their own operation and administration, and so do we. But we're not strangers, we're always partners. So me and the superintendents always have to quarterly check in, making sure if there's any assistance that the city can provide. Best example is that the city has a contract to maintain all of the sports field at CUSD. Reason being, we have the manpower, they don't, and we're also providing that services to your residents, right? So you may live near a school, but you don't know if it's a school or a park. To us, as long as we can provide that benefits to the residents and also provide some assistance to the school districts, why not? So City Council has oftentimes set priorities on how they see the city move forward. So we operate under what we call a council manager form of government. What does that really mean? So it kind of delineates who does what. City council sets policies. They set a vision of how Cupertino should look like in the next 10, 20, 50, 100 years. But they are 5 people. They're not like, I have a staff of about 220. They don't have 220 people to work on that. So they delegate that to me and my team to say, hey, we want to be sustainable, we want to be innovative, we want to be cutting edge, and we want to do this. Pamela, go do it. So the difference between council and manager is that council sets that policy. Council says turn right, and then our team turns right. Council says go forward, we go forward. Council says, hey, we're moving too fast, then we slow down. So we're in the operation. So I think there's some confusion as, hey, how come city council is telling people to sweep the streets more, to clean the parks more? That's not really what they do. They talk to me. But city council may say, hey, our parks are not clean enough, because we pride ourselves being the cleanest park and the best streets. So Pamela, city manager, go figure that out. That's kind of the division. If you work in a private corporate world, then you have your board and you have your CEO. So that is you can see council as more like the board, and I am that CEO to run the operation. So the 5 goals are to provide the public engagement and transparency. That means that we want to make sure that our operation are as clear, as transparent to you. Not to say that we will do anything under the table, behind the scenes, no. It just, if there's a reason that you think we're not being straight up or not as being honest to you, council prides on providing that transparency to the residents. We want to be a cutting-edge transportation. I'll go into a little bit more detail on what that means. So we want to provide the transportation not just for vehicles, pedestrians, bicyclists, everything. So councils currently delegate that work to the Bike and Ped Commission to work on a Vision Zero document, and also to do a master plan for the entire mobility element for the city. That's just kind of how do we get all of that together. We always are working on the housing problem, as much as we don't want to admit it, but there's a housing crisis. The state has declared that California has been suffering from a housing crisis, not just housing, affordable housing, any sort of housing. So this is something that council has been weighing on their mind. How do we provide additional housing for people to come in? We also want to be fiscal sustainable. What does that mean? Not until recently, and you've all read it on the news, Cupertino has been very fortunate to have ongoing stream of revenue provided by this brew company we have in town. Up until very recently, there's a new decision made by the state to say, hey, you've been calculating wrong, and not only you've been calculating wrong, we also want to take the wrong calculation in the past that goes to some other cities. It's caused a lot of heartache, and it caused a lot of burden to staff to try to figure out, and council too, okay, state, I mean, I have no power to fight for the state. State, if that's true, how am I going to be sustainable for the next year, 5, 10, or 20? Luckily for us, we were able to kind of come out ahead of that challenge because we have been so responsible in our finance. We're putting money aside knowing this may happen one day. I'm just going to pause, assuming all of you know what I'm talking about. No idea. All right, so no idea. My favorite topic for the past 18 months or so. So I'm going to take you all back to the heat of COVID. We were all locked in our house, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't meet friends, couldn't go shopping, you couldn't do anything. But one thing you could have done, and you probably did a lot, is to click on Amazon, click on something to buy things online, right? Fight for those toilet paper, fight for anything. And when you're done buying the essentials, guess what you're doing? You're buying electronics. You're probably getting a new iPads. You're probably getting a new iPods because everyone's competing for that conference call. You're getting a lot of that. All of that online sales that was happening on the internet. The state doesn't really have a good formula how to capture that sales tax. We have Apple in town. That is in Cupertino. So logically, all of that sales tax happened online. Funnel back to Cupertino. That's where the headquarters is. However, other cities that have warehouses for these products said, hey, that's not fair. Just because we don't have the headquarters, all the traffic, all of these other impacts are happening in my town. I want to get a fair share of that. So they start going to Sacramento to say, hey, wait a minute, that's not fair. It should have been where the goods is touched. There's no physical touch. You click a button and things gets to you. There's no physical touch. But those warehouse cities, I call them, says, hey, well, that's not true. I have laborers in the warehouse packaging up, sending onto the Amazon truck, and that's the human touch. So based on that fight, and again, like I said, we're the city, the state has said, oh, you're right, you're right. Money should really be going to the warehouse cities, not the headquarters. So that is a big decision. And not only that, the state said, oh, by the way, it's not just going to future Cupertino, it's all this money that you got during COVID when people were buying crazy at home. All this money never were yours. You got to give it back to those communities. That's only fair. So yes, that was my thought exactly. I don't want to go into how many trips I've been to Sacramento making that argument in front of the state. But you know, who am I, one small city manager compared to other city? At the end of the day, we got the letter from the state to say this is it. Going forward, not only you will not be getting these sales tax. So when you buy from Apple, please go to the Apple store and buy them, because then that's where sales tax will stay. But if you do online sales, there is a newer formula that the point of sales will come from when the shipment happens. And not only that, we're also responsible for paying back these money that should never come to Cupertino. So to kind of put that into a scale, our operating budget is somewhere around $120 million. Give and take, it could be a little bit higher, a little bit lower in the last three years or so. If we were to pay back these money that they were never ours, we're looking at about a reduction of $60 to $80 million. That basically crippled our entire budget. So we've been fighting with the state, we've been making any sort of concession trying to do that, and that's why you're hearing, hopefully you have been tapping into the council meeting, hearing about we need to cut, we need to save, we need to be creative, we just need all sorts of help. And I've grown up here, but you know, as a resident, you don't pay attention to the city government. But now I am in city government, I've been told that this has never happened to Cupertino. Cupertino never had to cut. Cupertino never had to be frugal, because we were lucky enough to do and to afford all the services to the residents and everyone. So this is almost like a shocking news to all of us. But I am grateful through at least about a whole year of exercise looking at how can we still hold our operation together and provide that level of service to the residents. We've been going back to council to say, hey, there's certain things there are the nice to haves. Maybe we don't need to do that. But there must be a lot of essentials. We ought to do it. And out of the essentials, are there ways that we could have a partnership? So we've been actively looking for sponsors, donations, or just community help. Rotary has stepped up. A lot of developers in town has also stepped up. Apple has stepped up, and we also have Historic Society, Library Foundation, you name it. And that's where I feel very grateful. This actually opened up an opportunity for City Hall to have that connection with all of you. The Cherry Blossom Festival that I mentioned, we do have a festival waiver for the event. However, you saw the amount of volunteers, and you saw the amount of just everyone pulling together, because that's Cupertino, that's who we are. We want to keep our town the way it is, knowing that we have to go through this together. State of the City address this year, our mayor said, we're only stronger together. So this is a true testament. We're literally printing the budget today. You'll be the first that I can make the announcement. We actually have a almost balanced budget. We're about $140,000 short of $120 million budget. So I think, thank you. I think that is a miracle. It really is a big miracle. It also takes a lot of the community's understandings and again, council's direction, wanting us to still stay here. Exceptional services, but how do we get there? Okay. And lastly, it goes back to quality of life. We have everything you can think of. I just remember my last meeting talking about Memorial Park. We have pickleball, we have softball, we have tennis court, we have bocce ball, we have a nature garden, we have tot lot, you name it. I don't know if there's anything else that we don't have. We have DOLAs. That's right. So public engagement. So this actually was a recent picture. You see how full our city hall is. When I started in August 2022, there was me and city attorney, and that was it. It was kind of lonely. Now I feel like it's a little bit more lively. Transportation. So these are some of the transportation and trails and I want to talk a little bit about this picture. Hopefully some of you know. It's called the Silicon Valley Hopper. So it's a Uber-like transportation. It's a discounted and government subsidized ride-sharing app. So the idea is that we have Apple, which have a lot of employees coming from out of town to this establishment, and also we have the Yenza College. So we have a lot of people coming from out of the area. How, transportation-wise, how do we ease the traffic? A lot of them may be taking a public transit to Caltrain, right? But how do they go from Caltrain to where they need to go? They can't bike and they can't walk. It's really not conducive for any of that. So this is something that Council in 2020, during COVID, thought was a good idea. And we're actually one of the 2 cities. Seattle, I think, was the first one. We're the 2nd city in the entire country that started this app. It used to call VIA, now it's called the Silicon Valley Hopper. So the idea is that it's a subsidized Uber-like app. You can download on your phone, and it's anywhere. We started with anywhere in Cupertino. It's $2.35 and whatnot. So it will get you from anywhere, point A in Cupertino to point B in Cupertino. Then we realized, okay, still doesn't solve the problem with people coming to Apple or Dienza, right? They're still stuck at the Caltrain station because we don't have a station in Cupertino. So then we expanded to both the Mountain View Caltrain station, Sunnyvale Caltrain station, and also El Camino Hospital. It's really beneficial for the senior citizens and also the students. After school, I remember when I have to rush to get my kids, not anymore. You put on the app and then these people will come and pick up the kids. And because the program is so successful, this year we were able, and this is where you're seeing the picture, we're able to expand that with City of Santa Clara. So if you want to go to Valley Fair and don't want to deal with parking, lucky for you, you can pull out the app and they'll drop you right at Valley Fair and pick you up in Cupertino. Again, we were so successful, now we're actually talking to Sunnyvale. So after Sunnyvale, it's Palo Alto, San Jose, and this will be a competition with Uber, so that it is more of a subsidized, and all of them are clean vehicles. So it's really something that Cupertino City started, wanting to pride on our transportation initiative. Certain project that we have been working on, trails, bike lanes. I will say that there has been a construction going on at Rodriguez and Pienza that's driving me crazy. Yes. I've made my public works director know, and they all know. They call it the Pamela's intersection, so everyone knows about it. But the good thing is, once the construction is done somewhere in June, you will see a beautiful bikeway. Right, so you got to go through the growing pain before you see the result. But those are all of the CIP capital improvement programs that we continue to strive for. We talked about the Silicon Valley Hopper. I really encourage you to download the app when you have a chance. The other miracle is the housing element. So this is something that's really dear to my heart because I am a planner. For those of you who may not know, housing element is an 8-year cycle document where, again, the State Department Housing Community Development, HCD, requires every city to go through. We're not in the business of producing housing, but the state wants us to be in the business of helping to produce housing. So to give you kind of a reference, we're currently in what we call the 5th cycle. In the 5th cycle, Cupertino needs to produce somewhere around 1,100 to 1,200 units. These are ADUs, single homes, condos and townhomes and whatnot. We haven't been very successful. We're probably about a quarter to a third of nearing our completion. Guess what? The next cycle, the state says, that wasn't enough. You gotta amp it up a little bit. So we went from about 1,100 to 4,500. And that's not enough. And the state says, you have a bad record. So I don't think you can do 45. We're gonna add a buffer. So our total numbers is somewhere around 60 to 6,500 units. When that number is talked about, it shocks the community. How are we gonna fit? How are we gonna fit all that units? Keep in mind, we'll talk about the Bethel, the RISE project. It has about 2,500 units. Hampton Inn has about another 300 units. The senior property, the supportive housing project the county is currently working on, has about 300 units. United Furniture site, where Toll Brothers just bought, has another 200 units. A lot of units are coming online along Stevens Creek, our busy corridor, and Dianza. So it is going to change our city slightly, but you're not going to feel it. Because, I mean, we haven't had the amount of development that the state wanted us to do. We have no choice. So the city started this endeavor probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, through 2021. We started engaging with the public and knowing this is coming and this is coming. When I got on board, we were doing site selection. We were so behind. We were so behind from other cities. We just couldn't get to the bottom of it. How do we do that? How do we come up with policy? How do we come up with programs? About 2 weeks ago, we got the green light from HCD saying, you're good to go. So this is the second miracle that I have seen since I came online. We will be talking about the housing element adoption hearing on May 14th. So this will be council's opportunity to certify our housing element along with the secret environmental document, rezoning, and general plan amendment. Like I emphasized, we're not in the business to build housing. But we're in the business to provide that landscape. So how do we envision that? It makes sense to have higher density. And when I say higher, we're not looking at a high-rise in San Jose. We're looking at maybe townhomes and maybe 5 stories along Stevens Creek, right? So there's public transportation, and that's just easier to get to. There's a lot of concern about preserving the neighborhood. We're not turning the single-family homes into a high density. That's never going to happen. However, there's something called the missing middle. And I know this is a conversation that there probably has a lot of rumors. So one of the policies says if you're in a single family home, R1 district, we call it, single family home district, but you happen to be on a corner. The state has this term called missing middle. You have the high density, 5 to 7, 10 stories. You have the single family homes. You have the townhouses and you have the condos. But what's in between? And these are maybe the 4-plex, 6-plex, 8-plexes. So what we have put together is a policy to say these single-family homes, you're already at the corner. So without changing anything, you could do a SB9 by splitting your lots into half, right? So you have two houses now. And the state has said you could also, each of the lot, you could do an ADU and a junior ADU. You end up with 6 units on that very same lot. So as opposed to do that, we said, wait, 6 units for 1 lot at the corner for single family homes, I think that's too much. What if we introduce something called the missing middle? It's basically, you remain as an R1 lot, but you have the opportunity to build a R3, which is a multifamily 4-unit, up to 4-unit like. If you want to put a 4-plex on that lot, you're good. So we're encouraging that kind of a development. Again, they're at the corner. They're not going from 1 unit to 6 unit, we're going from 1 unit to 4 unit. And the reason we want to stay at 4 unit, let me finish the thought and I saw the hint. The reason we want to stay at 4 unit, I'm going into like planning 202 now. There's something called density bonus. You all have heard about it. Density bonus kicks in for any project that has 5 units or more. So we don't want this to be a density bonus eligible type of development. So the program purposely capped it at 4 units. Yes?
I don't live in Cupertino, but where we do live, we're on an intersection and the neighbor catty corner changed their home into a triplex.
Mm-hmm.
Parking is horrendous.
I hear ya. Yeah, I hear. So this is the constant fight that we have with honoring state's vision, right? So state says, oh, well, you don't have enough housing, therefore you can do builder's remedy, you can do density housing. Don't worry about parking, just make it happen. But what it is that you can't make it happen. The cars are still there. But that's just going to be a new reality. So there's a lot of these waivers or reduction in parking for any of the newer development. To some degree, some of them don't have to provide any parking. The developers are not dumb, so they know if there's no parking, there can't be a sale. So that's why you're still seeing some parking. If a developer wants to go strictly with the state law, they don't need to provide any parking. So that's where we are. So again, this is another celebration for us. We are just as close to our housing element. I want to touch a little bit about our development world, so I'll go into the rise a little bit more. Canyon Crossing, so that's a development that's already, I think it's in the works. The Allen Row project to the right upper hand, that's on Foothill and Stevens Creek, and that's almost in completion. Westport, we're going to be doing the ribbon cutting grand opening with council next Monday. The senior housing component is completely done. It's about 48 units. This is phase 2 of Westport, the condo part. You're also seeing the townhomes that's being constructed, and that's the townhome part.
So we just is Westport up there by
Oaks.
Oak Station? I think that's correct. And where's Canyon?
Canyon, I want to say that it's on Foothill, past Stevens Creek, on the way to the quarry on the right-hand side.
Is that the liquor store?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, liquor store.
And where is Allen Row? Is that named for Allen Row? Or?
That is the developer's name. So there's another kind of not liquor store, but like a market.
Yeah.
It's a red barn-looking market on Foothill and Stevens Creek.
Oh.
Beta Brothers.
Yes. Okay.
That's where it is.
Okay.
So they're almost done. They're all townhomes developments. I think they're also looking for final occupancy in the June or July timeframe. Okay, so the rise. This is, again, planning 303 now. So we're going to kind of getting deeper and deeper. So this has a long history, but fast forward to most recent, they submitted another modification to their approval. They went up on the total units of residential, kept the office square footage about the same, and really reduced the retail square footage. Reason for that is, since COVID, retail is this thing that everyone's trying to figure out. What is retail? You've seen Target closing, Sprouts closing, Rite Aid closing. This big box retail, I order most of the stuff on Amazon now, so we don't know what that is. But there are a sector of retail business that is thriving. Boba shops, my goodness, I can't see another boba shop in any corner. Coffee shops, restaurants, and what I call experiential shopping. So I live in Sunnyvale. I live off Fremont and Dianza. In the Sunnyvale downtown area, there's something called, I think it's called Putsy Putt, Tipsy Putt or something. So it's where you go in and you do something experiential. That's retail. And you either buy a merchandise from that experience or you dine. So you have to do something as part of retail. Retail is no longer opening another Target, another Safeway, or another Lucky. So that's where the developer came and says, hey, we still want to do retail. We want to be more careful and more cautious to what this new retail is. By doing that, they took away a lot of the big box retail store. But they kept a lot of these smaller neighborhood retail. So we're looking at about, let's see, 2,669 units, and they're all, mostly, I think, are for sale units, some of the condos, and about a third of them is affordable housing. This is kind of as the rendering. It's very different from the prior modification. The green roof went away, the towers went away, what else went away? The big mall, Velco, went away. But it's going to be a sensible development to Cupertino. You'll have more townhome-like development close to Portal Avenue, where you have a lot of existing single-family homes. So the scale is closer, and it will taper up, but it's going to taper up along Velco Parkway and Wolf. So where, again, the busy corridors are. So that's where the development is going to go. I can go on. I mean, this is my bread and butter. I can go on. But I'll pause here and see if there's any questions on this.
And what is the timeline for the rise?
Great question.
We've been hearing so many times.
I know. So I'm hoping tomorrow, but I'm not Sandhill. So we have issued the permits. So I know they're working on. So right now they're working on remediating the soil contamination. They're also working on what they call horizontal work, which is laying all the infrastructure, cables and whatnot. They will be phasing the project. You're talking about 50 acres. So they're focusing on Stevens Creek and Wolf as the phase 1. So that's going to be mostly residential and some retail to support the residential. As they go closer to Highway 280 and then the east side of Velco, where the bowling alley is right now, will be the last phase. So they're hoping to start any sort of vertical construction by next year. Yes?
What will affordable housing sell for?
Another great question. So the word affordable is a little misleading. So I don't know if you know, but affordable housing is actually based on a formula. So it's based on the average income in the county. And of that average income, you can call it 85% of that average income still affordable, or 50%, 35%, 10%, or below. All of that category is what we call affordable housing. So for this project, most of these are going to be around the 85% of the average income. If I were to guess, it's probably somewhere around $1.5 to $1.6 million.
No,
Those are all for purchase, none of them for renting?
I think most of them are for sale. Yeah.
Is there going to be any dedicated, like, teacher housing, anything of that nature?
Not at this side. However, behind the Velco side, where the empty parking lot that used to have the farmer's market, where Velco's still there, it's what I call the Simeon property. So the county has acquired that property. It's about 5 acres. It butts against Highway 280. They're actually actively doing community engagement right now as we speak. There's roughly a little over 300 units, including teacher housing. I just don't know which kind of teacher. Is it DNSA, CUSD, and whatnot, and also supportive housing. And this is a county project. It should be coming online relatively soon. This is, again, another signature project that Supervisor Smitty would like to see it completed before his term out. So hopefully by next year, this town will definitely have a lot more visibility.
Okay, so I had a question.
Sure.
For the people you said who left Cupertino, was it due to the housing?
So people who left Cupertino, I think these are the kids that have either finished school and never came back, or people who are renting, couldn't afford to buy a house. So we didn't really push anyone out. We just couldn't afford to attract new and younger families in. So we're an aging population. I mean, I've enjoyed this part of the town all my life. I've lived in Sunnyvale, my current house, over 20 years. I don't want to leave. But if I don't leave, people can move in, right? And then because we had not been producing new homes, we couldn't afford to have younger families moving in. So it's not we're pushing people out, just we couldn't get them in. I saw a hand back there.
So the housing that the plans you had before this slide, I'm looking at, looks like about a third of this on the rise is affordable. Any of those, is there a percentage of those other? The whole slide you did before, where you were showing the 5 places, I'm not Cupertino either.
Oh.
Any of those affordable or teacher?
Not teacher, but yes, affordable, because Cupertino has what we call the inclusionary requirement. So every project that's coming online, 15% has to be, 15% of the overall units have to be affordable. If you don't want to do that, then we take an in lieu fee. So all of the project, regardless how many units, 15% of that will have to be affordable. Then again, the question is how affordable.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Sure.
I worked with CUSD, and the rule of thumb was 1/3 of residences will have kids. If you've got 2,700 apartments, that's a school site.
Pretty much, yeah. So we're looking at, I think we've been working very closely with the, you have a name, you have a term for the people who are projecting your population, not geographer, but demographer. So they're projecting all of the development. If they do come online, we will have a greater need to either do more classrooms or whatnot. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So we talked about Westport. It has 259 housing units, mostly townhomes and senior housing. I think in particular, this senior housing is what they call the memory loss unit. So the entire building has special functions built into, and there's a lottery for Cupertino seniors to go in. The lottery went just like that. It was gone. Same thing with the townhomes, and when it was just like that. So that really tells us that we need more housing in the city. So this is a slide that kind of tells you how city budget is spent. Public works. So if you had, I think if you had $100 or if our hypothetical resident contributes $2,000 a year in taxes to city budget. Okay, so if you're a city Cupertino resident and you pay us say $2,000 of your property tax, keep in mind not all of your property tax goes into City Hall. It goes to the county, it goes to the special district, goes to school district, goes to whatnot. A portion of your property tax, say about $2,000, comes to City Hall. Of the $2,000, about $600 goes to public works. About $400 go to our fabulous sheriff for keeping us safe. About $175 goes into planning. $28 goes into community hall, council chamber. So we need to support a council chamber. And it kind of keeps about almost $200 to maintain our parks and recreation. It gives you an idea of how the money is spent. And a large portion really goes to public works. That is our streets and sheriff. I will segue and talk about our streets. Again, I'm Sunnyvale resident. So for all of you who live in this neighborhood, you ought to feel the difference when you're traveling on Miller, then to Wolf, past Homestead. It's smooth, pothole, 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 pothole. It's because Cupertino, we have this thing called the pavement index, PCI, pavement condition index. We're about 92 out of 100. Sunnyvale is about 65. The average city is about 50, high 50s to low 60s. So that's when you go on Miller to Wolf, or vice versa. You're like, oh, okay, this is nice. And I'm like, what is going on? Every time we're on that road, my husband's like, okay, now we're going to Cupertino. Okay, we're going to Cupertino. It's going to be smooth now. So, but with that, it takes a lot of capital dollars to maintain that. So part of the service level reduction that we went to council is maybe we want to bring the 92 down just a little bit to 85. So, or 87. So it's still very good, but it's just going to not be as prime as we had before. Quality of life, this is something that I don't know if you, as a resident or a nearby resident know. We actually have 4 sister cities. They are Cupertino, Italy, the name kind of tells you something. Bhubaneswar, India, Toyokawa, Japan, where the Cherry Blossom host committee is, and also Shinju, Taiwan. We also have 5 friendship cities, mostly in Asia, and the difference between sister cities and friendship cities is sister cities, just like your family, forever bonded. We will not drop them, and they will not drop us. Friendship cities, we only have a bond for about a year or 2, and it doesn't work out. They're kind of like cousins, and we'll let you go. We actually had a longer list of all the friendship cities before COVID, but during COVID, they kind of just went away, so we only have about 5 right now. We're very diverse. I don't know if other cities around us have the fortune of having these sister cities. We're very fortunate to have these because our kids benefit from them. CUSD, you know, we send exchange students to Hsinchu every year, and we also take them. So, I mean, if I had known, I probably would have put my kids in that program. It's so beneficial. Former Mayor Wei and I was actually on a sister city trip last year, just seeing how a person from here who don't speak Chinese and a person from Hsinchu who don't speak English, and they become the best buds. They were crying, hugging, and I don't want to see you go. It melted my heart. So our kids are very fortunate to have these programs. With that said, we were able to entertain a delegation of 3 from Cupertino just last Monday. So Cupertino, Italy, again, smaller city. During COVID, it was difficult for them to send, and so they were able to have a delegation of 3 students and 1 teacher visit us. And then when you see that smile on their face, and when you see that, wow, this is the city hall, it just melts my heart, and I'm so proud to be able to have that program for the residents and the communities. I don't have to go into detail of how many programs that we offer. 4th of July, Shakespeare in the Park, Summer Series, movies in the park. We have our preschool at Quinlan Center, DOLA, Wilson Park. We actually also have one of the first all-inclusive playground in the city of Cupertino at Jollyman. So that's one of the first all-inclusive, meaning that they are, I think they are capable for autistic kids and whatnot, or one of the first city, and the Mercury News had an article on it. So sustainability, we also pride our city for being the most sustainable. I joke with my sustainability manager all the time because I'm always looking for bottled water. She looked at me and goes, Pam, I am the wrong person to ask for bottled water. You should know that, right? And we're also proud to have some sort of sustainable solution for boba, because we are, again, one of the first city that introduced the ban on single-use of plastic. We don't want to have all those plastic bags. We don't want to have those plastic containers. That's why when you're dining in Cupertino, you ask for a to-go box. You get these kind of weird feeling, kind of a fake thing. That's because we pride us on sustainable material. And want to make sure that we're also sustainable within City Hall. So we also have other policy to make sure that papers are recycled. You're not going to find any plastic utensils or plates in City Hall. And again, this is something that Council has set their priority to be a sustainable city. I know this is a slide that some of you might be interested. Do you want to, no questions? I'll move on. Okay. Sounds good. All right, so we have all of that. Any of you were able to join us on Earth Day 2 Saturdays ago?
We've had a table for 3 years.
Oh, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, that was fun.
Did you do the Bollywood dance too?
We really saw them.
So that was a big success, and again, big celebration. There's a lot of people coming together and just to celebrate. And did you know that stage is a solar-powered stage? So there's no electricity whatsoever. It's all solar-powered. I was just amazed at how, I don't know how staff pull off to get a Cybertruck that day in the parking lot. So business outreach, again, we talked about economic development. So what does economic development mean? We want to be able to retain small business and also keep the big business. They're not all the same. So your mom and pops, your authentic ethnic restaurants have a different need than the Apple of the world. But that's economic development. Once you're in Cupertino, I don't want to lose you. If you're not in Cupertino already, I want you in. But that takes a lot of just listening, understanding, outreaching, engaging, and be flexible. So council has told us, hey, we want to make sure that every storefront is filled. So we've been really outreaching to the existing communities, business community, providing platform, providing assistance, providing anything that might be helpful to them. We're also working very closely with the chamber. I mean, chamber is really our first line of defense, talking to these new businesses. So aside from Cupertino Apple headquarters, we have about 2,600 active business licenses. That sounds a lot, but this could also be your contractors, anyone that might be working from home. But we do, 2,600 businesses is still a lot. We have about 90% of these businesses being professional. These are the lawyers, accountants, and whatnot. So it's a very different dynamic how to do economic development. And as you can imagine, the post-COVID world doesn't really need to have an office space for these professions. They can work from home. They can work anywhere. They can work virtually. But again, we still try to keep and wanting them to retain their business in Cupertino. Don't know if you know, other than Apple, we do have other stores. So these are the top text generation. So every time I show this slide, it's like, oh, well, so are they like equivalent to the sales tax that Apple does? I'm like, oh, no. But we do have other text generators. So that's the Chevron gas station, Target, Lazy Dog, Whole Foods, of course. And of course, every time you go to Shane Company to buy something new, some portion of that goes to the city of Cupertino. So Cupertino has a very diverse residents. So we have about 70% being Asian, and Asian that is the Chinese, the Indians, the Japanese, Koreans, and Southeast Asian and whatnot. And we still have about a diverse ethnicity in the city. We're a very diverse community. So city council highlights real quickly. So we've gone through a lot of projects in the past year or so. If you are ever bored, we're always on YouTube. So tap in on Tuesday night, every other Tuesday night. That's how my husband keeps me to see, okay, she's really working, she's not just doing something else out there. But council has been doing a lot of good things and setting policies, approving project housing element, cancellation school, ADU ordinance, and you name it. So if you're interested in finding out others, you can always go to City Council's website, download the staff report, and then there's presentation and also available on the YouTube. We talked about diversity. So this is something that we pride. The top picture is the Chamber of Commerce Chinese New Year celebration event. So we were fortunate enough to come with the mayor, I think that's a housing commissioner, Ryan, and also the vice mayor, and just kind of celebrate that with the community. Same thing with the big Bunny 5K, I'll never say it right. So this is one of the most popular events that happens during, on Easter. All of my friends who live in Cupertino tell me how great it is. Pamela, you gotta try on it. Just no, I'm not a runner. So, but it's again, this is a well-embraced event. And same with Indian Flag Raising Day. So every August we do an Indian flag raising because again, our sister city in Bubanashua. We'll also be doing a flag raising to honor the Pride Month on June 1st. So again, that just shows how rich we are with our culture and diverse in many, many different areas. More pictures. Let's see. I think that's that's the Fall Festival, Earth Day. That is also a Fall Festival. So it's only going to be more crowded this year. I think that was the cherry blossom last year. So ways to engage, looking for you to engage with us. We're always looking for volunteers. We're also always looking for commissioners. So City of Cupertino have 10 commissions. We're also always actively looking for housing commissioners, sustainability commissioners. In fact, there is a technology commission meeting going on as we speak right now. Planning commission, parks and recreation, bike and pedestrian. Any way that we can connect with you for you to engage with us, just let us know. If you haven't already, we still have the city publication. So this goes into either in digital form or printed publication. We have the Sing, the Parks Recreation catalog courses, and also just I think it's a bi-weekly email. It's called the Items of Interest. It gives you a highlight of what is going on and what is about to go on, and also a wrap-up of what has happened. So just kind of keep you informed of what the city is up to. Ways to stay connected with us, social media, email, there's my cards. If you want, I'm in City Hall every day. Just come on, knock on the door and see if you want to find me. And that kind of wraps up my very long presentation for tonight. I'll take questions. Yes, Daryl.
Next council election will be November, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And it'll be what, 2?
So we have 2 seats up. As of last week, there are 8 candidates I have already declared. declared.
Oh, wow.
So Councilmember Hong Wei and also Councilmember Kitty Moore's seats will be up. They're eligible to run one more term.
So, as I said, I've been spoiled as a resident, and I'm hoping it's continuing. I know they sent out the survey in looking for budget cuts and, what do the residents want? And things that you have provided, the city has provided in the past is sidewalk repair has always been fabulous at no cost to the resident. And also the trees that are around the neighborhood that are marked city trees, and they maintain them, they trim them. Are those, and those were on the questionnaire about what the residents want. And I know I'm just curious for me because I've enjoyed those benefits greatly. Are they still being covered with the current budget?
Yes. So I will say that this is my city manager hat on and also city of Sunnyvale resident hat on. Cupertino is one of the only city that provides that services to the residents. San Jose doesn't, Sunnyvale doesn't. You might find other cities elsewhere. So when we first went to council and said, hey, we're in this pickle, right? We need to find money, and it's about $1 million to maintain those trees every year, and about another $1 million or more to maintain those sidewalk every year. We went to council and said, hey, we're the only city. What if we shift that burden to the residents, but we can provide assistance? I remember that night, I probably didn't make it home until past midnight. I heard, I was completely out of the touch with the community. This is something that is very sensitive. And council also heard that. So instead, the second round happened in April. We went back to council and says, hey, we heard the community, and council was very concerned. Yes, those services will stay. However, for the trees will stay, but we will have, something has to give. So what we just said is, what about we ease up on the median? So those road medians, we will probably give it a longer cycle to replace those landscaping. Because it's the same amount of a crew and same amount of effort. So we'll have all the city trees and also residence trees maintain longer cycle. Right now, I think they're on a 3 to 5 year cycle. We'll lengthen it to 7 years. You're not even going to notice it. And also, we're going to be given an even longer cycle on the medians. That's on the trees. Sidewalks, we hear you. We need to do that. However, we just can't provide the same level of service. What if we will come out only when it's needed? So again, it's not what you're used to, but I think it's still a great benefit to the residents. So long way short, to answer your questions, yes, those services are being preserved, and we're looking at other ways to kind of bridge the gap. So you should be very pleased when council adopts it.
I was when I was filling out that. I want that.
Rob, I'll say, when we lived in Minneapolis, the city would come inspect your sidewalk, and then they send you a bill.
I mean, San Jose.
Well, they have snow, so the snow goes So it's very great.
Different.
Well, and also know, I'm getting into something else, but with the liability, if that, if you have that shift and there's more, I think it was an inch, I don't know what it is now, and for if you become responsible if somebody falls on it, but if you notify the city, guess who's responsible? So it's like, we need some help here, and then they come out, and that's why you see everything marked, because, right, the burden.
But we could always do the work, but bill you, but the council decided not to.
It's great.
Other questions? Yes?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I had another question on the housing. So you did say the median income is 200K, so like what would be like a 25 percentile?
The median
income?
household income is 200K.
Yeah, and so what would be like the lowest or the 25 percentile?
I wouldn't know. I mean, I think there's a countywide data that I can probably provide you afterwards, but I don't know.
And so do you all control the rent for the units that are being built, or?
We do not have a rent control ordinance in City of Cupertino. It's more market driven.
And then final question, what do you do about the homeless people?
What would you like me to do? So it's a very sensitive topic. Again, this is not me trying to kind of back my way out. In comparison to other cities, we're actually very fortunate to have a small population of homeless. Unfortunately, they are very visible. They are on Stevens Creek, they are on Homestead, they are on everywhere you can see them. So this is how the system works. The California Constitution protects the right of an unhoused individual. They have a right to be a homeless person. When a homeless person is offered a housing solution or a shelter, they have a right of refusal. I don't want it. At that time, we're stuck. You can't really do much unless they cross the line. So if they violated any laws, for instance, they posed any public safety danger, or they started to deface or create a public nuisance, then sheriff can step in. But they just want to camp out on the sidewalk or somewhere, that's their right to be a homeless person. If they choose to take that shelter, we will provide all this assistance to guide them there. At the end of the day, the goal for the unhoused individual is for us to find them a housing solution. So we're always hoping that they can take a shelter, give them the resources to be back on their feet, and eventually just move away from being an unhoused. Without giving too much of the specifics, the individual, if you all remember closer to here on Portal, a couple years ago, 2 years ago, there was a lady on Portal. She was she camped out between the Yoshinoya House and Chuck E. Cheese. We would do daily visit, but she will refuse. We will provide all sorts of options for her to move into a shelter. She will refuse. When she said, "Oh, well, that sounds nice," that's always the time when it gets cold, rainy, and wintry. There are no beds. Everyone else has taken the opportunity. So at the time when she wants the help, we couldn't offer. So there's that rub, right? So we can't quite help her. How we finally were able to resolve it is that she crossed the line. So she, I think, exhibits some mental health issue. That's when the sheriff stepped in. So ultimately, there is a housing crisis. There's a mental health crisis. Altogether, that's really the issue with the unhoused population. We have a lot of, so between where we are and an unhoused individual, there are actually many transitions. You'll be losing your job, you'll be losing your housing, you could be staying in your car, you could be crashing on the couch at your friend's house before you end up on the streets. So we actually, the county is the big brother overseeing these kind of services and providing these assistance to the population who are nearing that transition. We're doing the best we can, but really it's their right, and that they want, how do I say this? If they don't want to be helped, there's really not much we can do. So, I mean, and we're a very generous community. I'll use the other individual on close to Target, right? So she's on Sage next to Panera and Target. If you remember driving by during Christmas time, she's got more Christmas presents than I do. Because again, we're a very generous community. You want to drop that box of bottled water or something for her, but it's not doing her any good. Because it just kind of keep her to be there longer. And there's a reason they're very prominently visible. Because that's where all of us pour our sympathy for them.
So this is about the commissions. You mentioned about 10 commissions, right? Do you need to be a resident to be part of
Yes.
the volunteer? Yes.
For the most part, yes. There are a small number of sectors that you could be either working in Cupertino or in a particular industry that could be helping. For instance, housing commission. You could be a renter, or you could be in a housing business, housing advocacy business that could help the housing commission. But for the most part, you have to be a resident.
So similar to that question, how many of the staff members are residents of Cupertino?
Oh, wow. I know my Parks and Rec director, she's a Cupertino resident, Rochelle. I think that's it. That's about it.
That's, yeah, it's very similar to San Diego.
Yeah.
where we live,
Uh-huh.
more than 50 or 60% or a big number of
Yeah.
people come from other parts.
Well, people who take the public servant salary can't really afford a $2.5 million house here, so, yeah. I mean, my public works, my Parks and Rec director, she grew up here. She went to Mont Vista. Her very first job was at Mervyn's, if you remember where Mervyn's is.
Yeah,
So she's closer to me than to be a homegirl, but no, very little. Most of my staff, almost about a third, have a 40-minute plus commute.
right.
Yeah, and which is the reason why, since COVID, we've allowed telework. I know this is, again, something that, and then again, I thank the community for your understanding and your patience. Telework is here to stay. It's this post-COVID new world, right? So what is it? During COVID, we lost a lot of staff. And a lot of staff came on board thinking this telework thing, this work at home thing is gonna stay. And also a lot of people moved out of the area. So they moved to Modesto, Sacramento. I actually had a staff move to LA, and also Vancouver. So when I came on board, I was like, wait, I've never seen you. I am old school. I want paper. I want to see you. I want to have a conversation. So we start bringing people back in. But when you moved away, you can never move back. So we now have this policy allowing people, staff to work 3 days at home and 2 days in the office. I'm in office every day because I only have a 5-minute drive. I require all my department heads to be here. We're a very active and engaged community. People want to come to City Hall, and we owe that face time to the community, but not necessarily staff, right? So some staff, they're manager analysts, they're accountants, they could do the work at home, but I still want them to come in. So to answer your question, a lot of staff just says, hey Pamela, I can't do it, what am I going to do? It's a tough choice. I actually lost a lot of staff because I required them to come in.
Well, thank you for being with us today. I'm sure there'll be more questions if we could do this all night. But thank you once again for being our speaker tonight and being so. Our next speaker is September, so we'll take a few months off. So look forward for more information later.
I'll just get distracted.